We're good.
And then I think Nancy's in the waiting room. Oh, she's in now.
Yeah.
And if you could just keep an eye on the waiting room too, please, and then we can.
I definitely will.
Awesome.
Thank you all for the technology.
Okay.
Are
so
we
Penny,
ready?
I think we're ready to go if you'd like to. Call the
Okay.
meeting to order.
All right, I will start then. I'll call this public hearing to order. I'd like to recognize and appreciate that we're holding this hearing within the traditional territories of the Tishat and Hupachasit First Nations. My name is Penny Cody, and I'm the director for Sproat Lake Electoral Area. I'd like to introduce you to staff, ACRD staff, planning staff, Mr. Mike Erg, General Manager of Development Services, Charity Halberd Dogs, Planning Technician, and Kathy MacArthur, Planning Assistant. Hello. Okay, this hearing is being held electronically using Zoom. It is being recorded and is live streaming to our website. Would staff please provide direction and instructions on how to participate in this hearing?
So just a sec. So I will read out the public hearing ad, and and it includes the information on how to participate, if that's all right, Director Cote.
Yes, please.
Okay. So public hearing for bylaw P 1430, lot 45, Taylor Arm Drive, Dale McKitty, property owner, to be held on October 4th, 2021 at 7 p.m., where it'll be held electronic and call-in public attendance only. See information below. A public hearing for residents and property owners within electoral area D, Sproat Lake, will be held to consider bylaw P 1430. This bylaw is a zoning atlas amendment to rezone a portion of lot 45, district lot 622, Clayoquot District, plan 12452 from Forest Rural A3 District to Acreage Residential RA3 District to facilitate a subdivision proposal. The public hearing will be held by the Director for Electoral Area D, the alternate director, or the chairperson of the regional district. The board resolution making this declaration, along with bylaw P 1430 and relevant background documents, is available for review online at www.acrd.bc.ca/events/4-10-2021. Planning staff are available to answer questions through email or by phone during the normal office hours, 8 a.m. to 4:30 p.m., Monday through Friday, from September 22nd, 2021 to October 4th, 2021, excluding holidays and statutory holidays. Excluding weekends and statutory holidays. How can I provide input? During the COVID-19 pandemic, providing an opportunity for public input and safeguarding public health are top priorities for the ACRD. Consider written submissions as an effective means to provide your input. Anyone who feels their interest in property will be affected by the proposed bylaw will be afforded a reasonable opportunity to be heard. Options include participating in the public hearing by electronic means using Zoom video conferencing or teleconferencing, and or submitting correspondence to the ACRD. If you wish to participate in the public hearing electronically or by phone, full instructions to do so are available on our website at www.acrd.bc.ca/events/4-10-2021/ or can be provided by contacting planning staff by email at planning@acrd.bc.ca or by phone 250-720-2700. The public hearing will be recorded and live streamed on our website. Correspondence can be submitted to the ACRD by one of the following methods. Hard copy of to the ACRD office, drop slot, or by mail to the planning department at the address below. Email to planning@acrd.bc.ca before 4 p.m. October 4th, 2021. Email correspondence will only be considered and received if receipt confirmation is provided by ACRD staff. Fax sent to 250-723-1327 before 4 p.m. October 4th, 2021. Fax correspondence will only be considered if receipt confirmation is provided by ACRD staff. All correspondence must be received by the ACRD no earlier than 8 a.m. on September 22nd and no later than 4 p.m. on October 4th, 2021. Correspondence submitted and or received outside of these parameters will not be included in the public hearing. Who do I contact if I have questions? Planning Department, Regional District of Alberni, Clayoquot, 3008 Fifth Avenue, Port Alberni, BC, V9Y 2E3, telephone 250-720-2700, fax 250-723-1327, email planning@acrd.bc.ca, and the date of this notice is September 22nd, 2021. Thank you.
Thank you, Mike. So the subject of this hearing is bylaw P1430. This bylaw is applicable to lot 45 Taylor Arm Drive and is necessary to facilitate a subdivision proposal. If you have questions or comments about any other unrelated topic, I ask that you contact the regional district staff after this hearing has been terminated. Would staff now read out the notice of the public hearing?
I did read out the notice when I read out the instructions as well.
Okay, thank you. Yes, you did. Okay, so the purpose of this hearing is to receive input, written and verbal, from any person who believes their interest in property is affected by this bylaw. The regional district will receive full minutes of this hearing before voting on the bylaw. Staff is taking minutes to summarize the issues raised. Please speak clearly to ensure accuracy. Would staff please introduce the proposal? Please.
Hi, everybody. So this is an application, rezoning application for a portion of lot 45, plan 12452. And yeah, so it's approximately 3.2 hectares or 7.79 acres. The total property is 37.8 hectares or 93.5 acres. The applicant's intention or the application is to rezone a portion of the property to RA3 to facilitate a 5-lot subdivision and range with parcels ranging in size from 3.38 hectares to 0.63 hectares. And the subdivision plan is on the website and available for the public.
Thank you. At this time, would the applicant like to add anything?
Yes, I'm Helen Sims from Prism Land Surveying, representing Dale Mickety, the owner of the property. This is a very large property, approximately 38 hectares or 93 acres. Currently, it is mostly forested. The terrain is very challenging on the entire site. There's a wetland upland of Taylor Arm Drive. The entire site is split zoned. A small portion near Asher Road is acreage residential 1, while most of the lot is forest rural. The OCP designates this property to be residential. This application deals with just the waterfront portion of the property. The site has high rocky outcroppings and falls steeply to Sproat Lake. We are proposing 5 strata lots with common property on the opposite side of Taylor Arm Drive. Taylor Arm Drive will be extended to the north boundary to provide access to lands beyond, and the lands beyond is Crown land. Since this application is more than 3 lots, 5% park needs to be addressed. We understand that this area, known as Beer Can Beach, is an important leisure area and public access to it would be welcome. We are proposing a 5-meter wide park strip from Taylor Arm Drive to Sproat Lake. This would not only give access to the lake, it would also serve as access along the entire north boundary to the Crown land, which is to the north. A 5-meter wide strip is 3% of the entire area of this proposal. We are working on submitting a proposal for the remainder of the property, and when we submit that proposal, the park will be well in excess of 30%. Therefore, we suggest the remainder of the park requirement, the other 2%, be on the remainder of the property, and our client would register a covenant to ensure that the park would be dedicated later. The reason we offer park instead of road is because the Ministry of Transportation is not interested in obtaining land for access to water where the road cannot be built. There is already 4 20-meter wide accesses to Sproat Lake just east of this site that have not been constructed because the terrain is difficult. We intend to work with both the Ministry of Transportation and the Alberni-Clayoquot Regional District to allow access to Sproat Lake to be park instead of road. We've had 2 professional reports prepared in support of this application. H2O Environmental has inspected the soils and prepared a report recommending individual septic tanks on each lot that will have a dispersal system on common property across Taylor Arm Drive. The second report was prepared by Toff and Associates, registered biologist, and they've conducted an investigation of the entire site and have flagged the 30-meter setback from the wetlands. The common property's septic disposal area will be more than 30 meters from the wetlands. As mentioned, we are working on a concept for the remainder of the property. In that concept, the wetlands will be preserved, lots of walking trails and lots of park. We expect the concept plan to be finished in the near future, and that will be our next application. And thank you very much and for this opportunity to present these facts, and I await questions.
Thank you.
Director Cote, I'd forgot to mention the referral agencies and the correspondence we've already received.
Yes, please.
So if I could just run through that. So,
Yes,
so there was 8 pieces of correspondence that the ACRD received. I'm not going to read all of them out. They are available on the website. All of the correspondence will be attached to the public hearing and presented to the board as part of the public hearing minutes. I'll summarize the agency, or sorry, the public correspondence, and just talk about that. So the 8 pieces of written correspondence, which are available on the ACRD website and will be presented to the board, as part of the package. The concerns generally, the concerns and questions in the written correspondence was regarding parkland, access to lands beyond the property, and the development of the rest of the property. So I would just note that any development outside of the existing zoning on the balance of this property would be subject to a separate rezoning application. So certainly what the applicants have said today is that they intend to submit a rezoning application for the balance of the property. So just want to make sure that everybody understands, so that if it's development outside of the RA1, which is over a portion of the balance of the property, or A3, if it doesn't conform with that zoning, a separate rezoning application and a separate public hearing would be required. District lot 950, which is just to the northwest of this property, is Crown land. And so that's something that in the past the Sproat Lake Parks Commission has discussed with ACRD staff about acquiring public access to that land. So that is part of the rationale with the road allowance going up to the crown portion of the land there, so that the public can access that crown land. So and one of the other main topics of the correspondence we received was around parkland versus cash in lieu. While that is required at the subdivision stage, obviously it's of interest to members of the public and wanting to do that. So, and I think based on the public input, the owner has mentioned a covenant on how parkland would be dealt with, and sort of following this public hearing, if this rezoning application proceeds, staff proposed that the owner and applicant enter into a covenant with the regional district guaranteeing how parkland is going to be dealt with. So, and then we also received 5 referral agency comments, and they are also on the website and will be attached and presented to the board. So I will thank you for letting me follow up on that. And Director Cote, if you want to get input from the public.
Thank you, Mr. Erg. Right now, we will hear from members of the public. So I'd ask that you please wait until you've been recognized by me. State your name and full address before beginning. We'll hear from anyone wishing to speak for the first time before allowing for second comments. So this would be, I guess, raise your hand and acknowledge, or haven't done a public hearing by Zoom before. So we have a hand up, Larry Mahone. Can you please state your name and address for the record? Thank you. You have to unzoom. You have to unmute yourself.
It's Larry McMahon and Terry McMahon, 11010 Taylor Arm Drive.
Thank you.
Okay, we have submitted a written comments about the proposed subdivision or rezoning application. And while I won't go into great detail about it, because it is going to be part of the minutes of this meeting, the main issue I have and we have about this development is that it just seems very premature to residents that are on the street to not know what is really going to happen, with the extension of Taylor Arm Drive to Crown Lands, future potential parks, and basically an access from a very poorly maintained road as it is now. And some of the social issues that can occur with unmonitored parklands potentially at the end of Taylor Arm Drive. And this, is sort of our major concern with this, and why we don't feel at this stage we could support this rezoning proposal.
Okay, thank you. Thank you. Is there anyone else who'd like to speak? Is there anyone else who would like to speak to this application, or I can refer back to, okay, Doug, please.
Yes, thank you. My name is Doug Ferguson. I'm at 11148 Taylor Arm. I'm 4 lots away from the dead end of Taylor Arm Drive. And I would just like to support Larry McMahon on his comments that we're really concerned that we don't know what the final product is going to look like. And also the comment about access to lands beyond. There was a large tract of land that failed subdivision several years ago because the highways department did not give them highway access. It's not a stretch of the imagination that if Taylor Arm Drive is extended into the Crown land, that the next step is a rezoning application for that large tract of land, which would leave Taylor Arm Drive, which is a little country road, very poorly maintained. That would be the access for all of those people. I'm very concerned about that. I'm finished. Thank you.
Thank you. I'd like to comment a little bit about lot 950, which is the Crown land, which is at the end. For a number of years now, the Sproat Lake Parks Commission have had their eye on that piece of property and had interest and talked to the province about gaining access so that it could become a community park. The park, the ministry has said that we need to come forward with a plan. We haven't come forward with a plan yet. There's no mention at all of that ever being transferred to private land and being developed. So parks are aware that the application right now is in the works, and that the road extension along Taylor Arm Drive to the park has been part of the proposal. There's also been comment regarding making a roadway from the end of Taylor Arm Drive out to the highway, at possibly hooking up with the highway or the hydro road that comes in off the highway. And that would not be a public road. That would be closed for fire access only. It would be gated, and that would be the extent of it. There's no way that it would be opened up because of basically the highway's approval getting out onto the highway. But the fire department are also supporting that road development if it should be approved. So that's what I know about lot 950. Thanks. Okay, I'll allow further, Doug.
Thank you. I just have a question. You're talking park at the end of Taylor Arm Drive. That's in addition to the access to Beer Can Beach. Is that correct? So this is park on what is now Crown land?
Yes. And I just want to say that that's been looked at for quite a number of years by the Parks Commission.
Okay. Can you give me some insight as to what standard of park? Would it be like Cougar Smith Park? Would it, like, what sort of standard would the park be?
The Parks Commission have another waterfront park. It's on Dixon Road. It's called Faber Park. And it's water, there's no water access, so you can't bring a boat in. It's for swimming only. There's a porta potty, and that's the along the lines of what that type of, it's a neighborhood park. So not much development.
Okay, thank you.
Is there anybody else that would like to speak? Yes, Boise's. Don,
Hi, I'm just interested.
name and address, please.
Oh, sorry, it's Don and Dale Boyce, 10590 Asher Road.
Thank you.
I'm just interested in the access then to the water in the park portion would be just a trail then, is that correct?
Wait, I'm not sure what you're referring to, the application or lot 950, which we're not really discussing tonight.
No, not the lot 950. There was supposed to be 5% of the land to park area, and they're looking at 3% right now, and that it would be a strip of access to the water. I'm wondering, is that looking like a trail to access the water?
So I can
Yes,
answer
Mr.
that. So certainly in discussions with the applicant, when they mentioned that's that strip, yeah, the intention would be that it would be a walking path, not for vehicles, and it would actually be too narrow for a vehicle the way it is.
So
Yes.
could there be something like a picnic bench, a garbage can? If there was a garbage can, who would be responsible for
Yeah.
taking the garbage away?
Yes, and I think the intention when when HRD planning staff are looking at where the parkland would work is just because the crown portion on District Block 950 is something that sort of before this development came up, is something that the Sproat Lake Parks Commission was looking at. It would be adjacent to it, and it would have to be managed in conjunction with lots of input from the Sproat Lake Parks Commission. I don't want to speak on their behalf on what would be needed, but something for people to access the water and obviously there would, I think it's reasonable to expect there'd be, the things you're talking about, a garbage can and a porta potty that Director Cote had mentioned. But it may not necessarily be on that 5-meter strip because that's next to Crown land as well. But
I see. In the concern about the monitoring of that area, would a neighborhood watch system be something that might help with that? Sometimes at the beginning of a trailhead, they'll have a neighborhood watch sign. And
yeah, certainly I think in general, sort of, I don't want to get into specifics about how a park that we don't have yet, could be managed, but I think neighborhood watches are a great, a great tool, yeah, so I think in principle that's a great concept. So.
The Faber Park on Dixon Road, that area does have the only block watch at Sproat Lake, and it works very well. And they do that neighborhood; those neighbors do monitor that park. I'd like to, and there is security as well. Footprint security are hired to monitor that. It's a different type of access, though. It's yeah, it's a bit different. It is a bigger park. It's not just a trail. Remembering also that lot 950 is not a park yet. It has not been approved. So this development needs to stand on its own at this point. There is no park next door at this point. It could be developed, but like I said, the Sproat Lake Parks Commission have not secured that at this point.
great, thank you.
Thanks. Is there any other questions? Nancy? Yes. Nancy?
I think having read all the
Name
hear
and
me?
address, please.
Nancy Harvey, 10862 Taylor Arm Drive.
Thank you.
Mr. Erg referred to the correspondence received. A couple of points I think that were not commented on. One was, and there's a note by Mr. Mickety's company that there would be increased parkland. There was a strong voice within that correspondence that did not include the wetlands, that the wetlands were not considered part of any kind of percentage of park. And the other concern that seemed to be a theme throughout was actually traffic on Taylor Arm and Asher itself. The very dangerous corner at Asher and Taylor Arm, especially with bigger equipment coming through, increased traffic, and the general nature of the roads in this area need to be of consideration for the planning committee. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there any other comments? Did you want to speak, Mr. Erg?
I was just going to make a comment around the roads and traffic, and I just wanted to note the role the Ministry of Transportation plays in this development, really in 3 ways. So the the ultimate subdivision has to be approved by the approving officer. It's a provincial approving officer that works at the Ministry of Transportation office is where it's based. So certainly the road and road safety is always factored into any subdivision application like this. And also because this property is within 800 meters of Highway 4, as the crow flies, the Ministry of Transportation, if this bylaw is furthered to third reading, the Ministry of Transportation has to sign off on the bylaw prior to the board considering adoption. So I just wanted to highlight those things as well. And then again, the future, there's the owner's intention is to bring is more to come. There's going to be another development application, but again, if there's, and I expect there's a rezoning component would need to be part of that, and that would have to come back through another public process. And so we would, the application would have to, sort of go through the whole part, but a public hearing would be part of it as well. So I just wanted to highlight those things.
Thank you. Is there any other comments? Okay, I will then go to staff or the applicant. Would you like to respond to any of the comments?
Helen, do you want to respond or do you want me to say something?
You can go ahead, Dale.
Hi, everybody. Thank you. And all the concerns are very legit. And we're there to do what's best for the public, but also to make accessible for other people to the properties. The wetlands, I think you're misreading that. I believe that wetlands is going to be set aside as park area, is it not, Helen?
Yes, it certainly is.
That's what I thought. And as far as a road into the property right next to us, that is not our intent at this time. All we're trying to do is allow access to the area formerly known as informally known as Beer Can Beach. And we don't want a bunch of people parking there and doing a bunch of stuff, just have a road access down to there. And Helen, I'll let you take off from that.
Okay, thank you. The park, all the wetlands will be on the next application, but having said that, we certainly could include all the wetlands on this application if the regional district would like us to do that, because there will be absolutely no development around those wetlands. With regard to the park, my understanding was that the public was concerned about having access to that area, and so therefore we proposed a park strip. But there will be quite a bit of park on the entire site. In fact, most of it will be park. With regard to traffic, what Mike Erg has said is very correct. The Ministry of Transportation is the one that will be assessing this subdivision application, and they will tell us exactly what has to be done with regard to road construction. And I think that addresses the concerns.
Yeah.
If I may, just a little bit around how the wetlands would fit into parkland. So certainly when this type of development there's a subdivision application and parkland requirements kick in, it is up to 5% can be required by the regional district. If there is other lands that make sense to be, go into parkland or to be protected that are up beyond the 5%, there's nothing that stops the property owner from saying they'd like to have this additional land. And I think if the wetland was to be considered, protected area or into public park or public protection, I think that would have to be considered. And my recommendation to the board would be that would be considered in excess of the required usable 5% parkland, right? So that's, it's not that it couldn't become part of the parkland, but I don't think it should be part of my advice to the board is it shouldn't be part of the required 5% parkland, right? Because parkland should be usable. So I just wanted to highlight that and make sure that's part of the public record for any discussion. And just wanted to comment again on the covenant requirements, because there was some discussion with the applicant had mentioned about covenanting to make sure that the parkland requirements are met. And it doesn't have to be all of the parkland, but how parkland on this portion of the property that's going to be subdivided can be dealt with through covenant. And there would also be an option, with the applicant or the property owner agreeing that the covenant could also stipulate that 5 is the maximum number of lots on this portion of the property. Like that is something that could be included as well. So just wanted to make sure that was out there for the public to hear and part of the public record.
Thank you. I see that there's a couple hands up again. So is there anybody that hasn't spoken for the first time that would like to speak? I don't see anybody. There's a couple of names on there that I don't see faces or hands. So I see Doug's hand up, and Larry, I think your hand is up as well, or you just didn't put it down.
My hand is up, yeah.
Okay, well, I'll go with Doug first.
Thank you, Penny. I'd just like to make a comment on Dale's comment about him not wanting cars parked there and people going down to the beach. Any given day during the summer, there's 2 or 3 cars parked at the dead end of Taylor Arm Drive, people walking through the gate on what is your property. And by the way, that gate was put up by several of your neighbors here to stop people accessing that property years ago. So if you think extending the road with access directly down to the beaches is not going to attract people, I think you're misunderstanding. Finish, thank you.
Thank you. Larry, you had a second comment?
Just, I appreciate the additional discussion and comments around the parklands and potential parklands, because I think that's of major concern to residents. And I think discussion around the wetlands potentially being parklands, I guess I'm encouraged, by the discussion about that, but it just leaves me with, the same question that I believe, discussion about parklands and access, it should be addressed now as part of this initial rezoning application, because it just has so much implication to just the whole neighborhood and how it will go forward. Because once this happens, we're kind of on a irreparable of access to what is currently a very quiet neighborhood. So for me, I would encourage much more of this public access question to be addressed now. Thank you.
Thank you for that. I'd just like to point out that this is a complicated application It's a very large piece of property. It's a big change to a small community. So understandably, there's questions. From what I've seen in the letters that will be included in the parcel for the board to see was questions around the parkland trail access that the previous property owner allowed to happen. And part of that was the trail down to Beer Can Beach that a lot of people did use. We want to see, and I've heard from Dale that he'd like to make sure that his development is in line with the community and wants to make sure that he's not offending all of his neighbors. And he used to be a neighbor as well, so he knows the neighborhood a bit. So just want to point that out as well. So at this time, is there any other comments that people would like to bring forward to speak? Not seeing any. Is there anybody that would like to speak for a third time? No. Would the applicant like to say any more?
Dale, did you want to say anything else?
I just want to thank everybody for their time and their input. And as Penny said, we used to be neighbors. We're still kind of neighbors, but just a little further away down the lake. But I used to live at the other end of Taylor Arm Drive. And we had a public access road. And as we all know, the beaches are public. And if the Parks Recreation Department decides to turn Beer Can Beach into a public park for Sproat Lake, we will follow their recommendations. And that's the reason for that parkland and a walking path to go down there. That's it. And whether I put a path in or whether I don't, as you know, I've owned the property the last 3-4 years, you're not going to stop people from walking in there. And as you develop more people that are living there, it will have more of a presence for people and discourage people from just wandering around. And they would use designated paths at that time. They won't just be crossing willy-nilly and think that because it's wide open, they can have at it. You know that will discourage people from walking all over the place. We want to be good neighbors. Like I said, I was born in Port Alberni. I love the area. I've moved back, and I want to see it. I want to see recreational property available for people. For somebody to go and buy a 93-acre parcel is pretty onerous. But by developing it, and I'm not talking about putting in condos and multi-housing or anything like that, but just by making these pieces available, as we all know, there's nothing available to anybody out there. And we all can remember a time where we wanted to get out there but couldn't afford to, and that's all I'm trying to do here. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there any other comments from anyone? Okay, hearing nothing more from staff or anybody, I will, if we got a minute now, please be advised that the members of the board cannot receive new information related to this bylaw between the end of this hearing and making a decision on the bylaw at the next board meeting, October 13th. If any board member does so, the hearing would be invalidated and would have to be held again. So with that in mind, does anyone have any final comments? I call for a first time. Are there any further representations on the bylaw? Seeing none, I call for a second time Are there any further representations on the bylaw? I call for a third and last time for any further representations on the bylaw. Hearing no further comments, I declare this meeting terminated. And that is the end of the discussion. If you have any questions, you can call staff.